Mogadishu, Somalia, October 3, 1993. A routine 30-minute snatch operation has turned into the longest sustained firefight involving American forces since Vietnam. 2 Black Hawk helicopters have been shot down. 18 American soldiers are dead, 73 wounded. And in the heart of that hellish city, a small group of warriors are doing something that defies human comprehension. Fighting hundreds of armed militia fighters through the night. Outnumbered, outgunned, but absolutely terrifyingly unstoppable. Their missions are classified. But their legend? Their legend is written in blood across every major conflict of the last 5 decades. The U.S. Army's most elite, most secretive, most lethal Tier 1 unit. They are called many things: CAG, the unit, the Army of Northern Virginia. But the world knows them by one name: Delta Force. The man who built the perfect weapon. To understand Delta Force, you have to understand the man who created it. Colonel Charles Alvin Beckwith, better known as Chargin' Charlie, was not a man who accepted failure. Born in Atlanta, Georgia in 1929, Beckwith was the kind of soldier who seemed engineered by God himself for warfare. Athletic, brilliant, ferociously aggressive, and possessed of an almost supernatural ability. By the time he was a young officer in the 1950s, he had already distinguished himself as someone different, someone who didn't just follow orders but questioned them, improved them, and demanded more from himself and his men than any standard the Army had set. But it was a single exchange program in 1962 that would change American military history forever. Beckwith was attached to the British 22nd Special Air Service Regiment. The SAS operated differently from anything Beckwith had ever seen. Small, incredibly skilled teams, deep intelligence gathering, surgical strikes, absolute autonomy, no bureaucracy, no politics, just results. He watched these men accomplish in hours what entire battalions couldn't achieve in weeks. For the next 15 years, Beckwith fought the U.S. Army establishment tooth and nail. He wrote proposals, he argued in briefings. He practically begged senior commanders to let him create an American SAS equivalent. He was ignored, sidelined, and dismissed. And then, Munich happened. September 5, 1972. Palestinian terrorists from Black September took 11 Israeli athletes hostage at the Olympic Games in Munich, West Germany. The German response was catastrophic. The U.S. military brass suddenly understood exactly what Beckwith had been telling them. America had no dedicated counterterrorism unit, no hostage rescue capability. On November 19, 1977, after years of bureaucratic battles, Colonel Charles Beckwith officially activated the 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. He had been given 1 year and $100 million to build America's answer to the SAS. What he built was something even the SAS hadn't imagined. Chapter 2, The Selection from Hell. Delta Force selection is not a test. It is not a course. It is not a program. It is a systematic, deliberate attempt to break every human being who attempts it, physically, mentally, emotionally, and see what remains when there is nothing left. It begins with what operators call the long walk. Candidates, who must already be elite soldiers from Ranger battalions, special forces groups, or other special operations units, are given a map, a compass, and a rucksack. The rucksack gets heavier every day. The distances get longer every day. That last part is deliberate. Delta doesn't want soldiers who perform when they know someone is watching. Delta wants warriors who perform at 100% when they believe no one is watching, when they believe it makes no difference. The final event, known simply as the long walk, involves candidates carrying rucksacks of undisclosed weight over an undisclosed distance in undisclosed terrain within an undisclosed time limit. Former candidates have described weights ranging from 45 to 90 pounds, distances between 18 and 40 miles. Roughly only 8 to 12% of candidates who attempt Delta selection pass. And passing selection is just the beginning. After selection comes the operator's training course, 6 months of the most intensive close-quarters battle training on Earth. Delta operators become the world's finest hostage rescue specialists, snipers, breaching experts, and intelligence operatives. They train in shoot houses that are reset thousands of times. Delta operators are also trained in completely non-military skills: disguise, foreign languages, driving, lockpicking, surveillance, and counter-surveillance. By the time a Delta operator graduates, he is not simply a soldier. He is one of the most dangerous and versatile human beings on the planet. Before we go any further into what these warriors did with all that training, if you are not already subscribed to this channel, hit that subscribe button right now and smash that like button. We release a brand new Elite Special Forces documentary every single week, and you do not want to miss what is coming. Chapter 3, Operation Eagle Claw, the disaster that forged them. Delta Force's baptism by fire was supposed to be their greatest triumph. Instead, it became America's most humiliating military failure, and the crucible that would ultimately make them the most dangerous unit in the world. April 24, 1980. For 166 days, 52 American diplomats and citizens had been held hostage in the American embassy in Tehran, Iran. And somewhere in a planning room at Fort Bragg, Colonel Sergeant Charlie Beckwith was briefing Operation Eagle Claw, the most complex special operations mission ever attempted. Delta Force would fly deep into Iran, link up with 8 Navy RH-53C Stallion helicopters at a remote staging area called Desert 1, then insert into Tehran, assault the embassy compound, rescue all 52 hostages, fight their way to a stadium being used as an extraction point, and fly everyone out on the helicopters. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. Beckwith needed a minimum of 6 functional helicopters to continue the mission. He had 5. He made the agonizing recommendation to abort. 130 transport aircraft on the ground. The explosion and fire killed 8 American servicemen. Mission equipment, classified documents, and the bodies of 8 heroes were left behind in the Iranian desert. Ayatollah Khomeini paraded the wreckage before the world's cameras. A national trauma. But here is what makes Delta Force the unit it became. They did not collapse. They did not retreat into blame and recrimination. Instead, they did what exceptional warriors always do. Eagle Claw did not break Delta Force. Eagle Claw built it into something the world had never seen. Chapter 4, The Shadows Grow. Operations through the 1980s. Through the 1980s, Delta Force operated almost entirely in the shadows. Deployments that never appeared in newspapers. Missions that still carry classification markings today. In 1983, Delta operators deployed to Grenada as part of Operation Urgent Fury, the U.S. invasion of the Caribbean island. Their mission: rescue the Governor General, Sir Paul Scoon, who was being held under house arrest by the Marxist military government. In 1985, Delta was at the center of one of the most dramatic hostage situations of the decade, the hijacking of TWA Flight 847. 39 American passengers were held hostage by Hezbollah terrorists, who brutally murdered Navy diver Robert Stetham and dumped his body on the tarmac in Beirut. In 1989, Delta deployed to Panama as part of Operation Just Cause, the U.S. overthrow of Manuel Noriega. Their mission was to rescue American hostage Kurt Muse from Modelo Prison in Panama City. In a daring nighttime assault, Delta operators fast-roped onto the prison roof, breached the facility, and extracted Muse. Mission after mission, country after country, always in the shadows, always deniable, always successful. Mogadishu, Somalia. This is the mission the world knows, thanks to Mark Bowden's book and Ridley Scott's film, as Black Hawk Down. But the real story is far more extraordinary than any Hollywood version. Delta Force operators from B Squadron, along with 75th Rangers, 160th SOAR pilots, and other special operations personnel were in Somalia as part of Task Force Ranger, hunting Mohammed Farah Aidid, the warlord whose militia was hijacking UN food aid and massacring civilians. 99 minutes into the mission, the first Black Hawk, Super 61, piloted by CW-3 Cliff Wolcott, was hit by an RPG and went down in the narrow streets of Mogadishu. Minutes later, a second Black Hawk went down. And here is where the Delta Force story becomes something almost beyond human comprehension. 2 Delta Force snipers, Master Sergeant Gary Gordon and Sergeant First Class Randall Shugart, were circling above the second crash site in a helicopter. Watching as hundreds of Somali militia closed in on the wounded survivors below, they knew what would happen when that mob reached the crash site. They asked a third time. Permission was granted. Gordon and Shugart fast-dropped into a crash site surrounded by hundreds of armed militia fighters. They pulled the wounded crew from the wreckage. They set up a defensive perimeter. They saved the life of Pilot Chief Warrant Officer Michael Durant, who was the only survivor of that crash site. Master Sergeant Gary Gordon and Sergeant First Class Randall Shugart were posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor, the first awarded since Vietnam. The Battle of Mogadishu lasted 15 hours. 18 Americans were killed and 73 were wounded. Delta Force operators accounted for the vast majority of the estimated 500 to 1,000 Somali fighters killed in that battle. But no movie has ever fully captured what those men did that night. Chapter 6. The War on Terror, Delta Force Unleashed. After September 11, 2001, Delta Force was unleashed in a way it had never been before. The gloves were off, the restrictions were lifted, and America's most secretive unit went to work. In the mountains of Afghanistan, Delta operators were among the first American forces on the ground at Tora Bora in December 2001. Delta operators came within hours of capturing or killing Osama bin Laden before he slipped across the Pakistani border. In Iraq, Delta Force became the tip of an unprecedented counterterrorism machine. On June 7, 2006, Delta Force operators were directly involved in the operation that located and killed Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, the founder of al-Qaeda in Iraq and the man responsible for thousands of civilian deaths. 2 500-pound bombs were dropped on his safe house north of Baquba. When Delta operators reached the site, Zarqawi was still alive. He died minutes later. The killer capture campaign that Delta Force led through Iraq from 2003 to 2011 systematically dismantled al-Qaeda in Iraq with a precision and efficiency that military historians are still studying. In Syria, Delta Force conducted one of its most dramatic operations since Mogadishu, the raid that killed Abu Sayyaf, a senior ISIS financial commander, in May 2015. Delta operators flew deep into ISIS-held Syrian territory, assaulted the compound, engaged in direct firefighting with ISIS fighters, killed Abu Sayyaf and several guards, and extracted both his wife for intelligence purposes and a Yazidi sex slave they freed from captivity, all without a single American casualty. Then came the operation that the world will remember forever. May 2nd, 2011, Abbottabad, Pakistan. SEAL Team 6, not Delta Force, conducted the raid that killed Osama bin Laden. But what most people don't know is that Delta Force operators were part of the broader security and support operation that night, ensuring the mission could proceed. What is not classified is this. In the 2 decades since September 11th, Delta Force has been responsible for the deaths or captures of more high-value terrorist targets than any other unit in the world. Chapter 7. The Ghost Warriors. Woe they are today. Today, Delta Force, officially known as the Combat Applications Group, or CAG, remains the United States Army's premier counterterrorism and direct action unit. Their headquarters at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, is a compound within a compound, unmarked buildings, restricted access, and a community of warriors and their families who have learned to live with permanent secrecy. Delta operators don't wear their unit insignia. They don't discuss their missions. When they deploy, their families often don't know where they are going or when they will return. And yet they continue to volunteer. They continue to go through the selection that breaks most men who attempt it. They continue to operate in the most dangerous places on Earth, doing things that will never appear in any official record. Colonel Charles Charlie Beckwith died in 1994. He didn't live to see the full flowering of everything he built. But standing in the mountains of Afghanistan, in the streets of Mosul, in the Syrian desert, and in 100 other places the world will never know about, are the inheritors of his vision. They are America's most secretive killers. They are the standard against which all other Special Forces units measure themselves. They are Delta Force. If this documentary has given you a new appreciation for the warriors who protect freedom from the shadows, please hit that like button right now and subscribe to this channel. Every like and every subscription helps us keep making these documentaries and giving these extraordinary warriors the recognition they deserve. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode, because next week, we have something absolutely incredible lined up. Next week on Elite Special Forces, we are crossing the Mediterranean to tell the story of a unit so secretive that Israel didn't officially acknowledge its existence for decades. They are called Shayatet 13, Flotilla 13, the Israeli Navy's Special Operations Force. Operation Spring of Youth, 1973. Dressed as women and tourists in the heart of Beirut, Shayatet 13 operators walked into the apartments of 3 of the most wanted Palestinian Black September terrorists responsible for the Munich Olympics massacre. The raid on Green Island, 1969. A fortified Egyptian naval fortress in the Suez Canal, considered completely impenetrable. Shayatet 13 swam to it at night, scaled the walls, killed most of the garrison, destroyed the facility, and swam back. Total Israeli casualties, 6 wounded. These are not Special Forces operations. These are Special Forces legends. Next week, we go deep inside Shayatet 13, their incredible founding story, their insane selection process, their most legendary operations, and why military experts consider them the most innovative special forces unit in the Middle East. You absolutely cannot miss this one. Subscribe to this channel right now and hit the notification bell so you are the first to watch next week's episode on Shayatet 13. Share this video with anyone you know who loves military history, elite forces, or incredible true stories of human courage. And drop a comment below. Who do you think is the most elite special forces unit in the world? Let's debate it. For Delta Force. For the warriors who operate in the dark, so the rest of us can live in the light. Until next week.